At NCB, children's participation is very much at the heart of how we like to work and a kind of core value for us. So children and young people are involved in the governance of the organisation through to its policy work, practice work at local level. So very much involving them across all of our work. And really building on evidence of what works in participation and what we know is effective through some of the research that we've actually done in the past, but also what other youth organisations have carried out themselves. Now, Anne mentioned the heart ladder of participation earlier on. And what we're going to do in the workshop with you today, and it's going to be interactive, it's an opportunity for you to share how you're already involving children and young people, or how you'd like to involve children in your work, and to learn from each other, but in the context of a particular model that we tend to use in our work, based on some research that was done with 29 organisations in 2003, I think, so it's a while ago, but it's still very relevant, and the learning from that highlighted the importance of levels of participation. Whilst the heart ladder, which was actually originally adapted from the Arnstein ladder of participation in 1969, so it was adapted a bit later on, whilst it was very good in highlighting the areas of participation you should avoid, non-participation, like the tokenistic or more manipulative ways of involving young people. What it did was create a sense of hierarchy, and that if you weren't achieving the top of the ladder, that in some way you were failing. What the research from Building a Culture of Participation highlighted was that actually how you involve young people is about the young people themselves, where they're at, what their interests are, but also what you're trying to achieve in your work. So Rachel's going to outline in a moment a particular model, and what we're going to do is then invite you to map what you're already doing onto that model, and to go on a journey to think about if you're really about embedding a culture of participation, and that is about ongoing sustained activity where young people are very much at the heart of activity in schools and other organisations and really shaping change. What do you need to think about, and what do you need to do to get there? Does that sound okay? Okay, I'm going to hand over to Rachel then, who's going to introduce the model in a bit more detail.
Okay. Yeah, so just following on from what Jo said, this is the model that we use at NCB. It's also used by Participation Works, which some of you may heard of. It's a partnership of different organisations, or youth participation organisations, and they do a lot of sort of training, provide resources as well. So some of the activities and some of the thoughts behind what we're doing today are based on the work of Participation Works, Building a Culture. So here is the model that we would like to use with you for it to be the springboard of your discussions. So yeah, like you've all got it on your table, so it might be easier for you to look down there. So participation is a process which individuals or groups of individuals go through, where they can influence decision making and which leads to change. And participation can be any of these things. So it's not necessarily, as we keep the hierarchy, one isn't better than the other. They're all examples of a good practice, and they're all valid, and they're all important ways of empowering and getting young people involved. So if I just explain a little bit more about what each of them are, and it'll to maybe help start you thinking so you're ready for when you're going to be discussing in groups. So if we start off with assigned but informed, this would be a project where it's adults have made the decision about what's going to happen, but children and young people choose to be involved in it. Okay? They don't play an active role in designing or evaluating the project, probably. So that's assigned but informed. The next one, the next area is consulted and informed, and that's again a project or a piece of work that would be designed and run by adults, but young people would choose to take part, would choose to be part of the process of designing and delivering that project. In both cases, the young people would know that what they say is important and what they say is going to be acted upon, but it's the adults kind of still leading, really. If we move over here to adult-initiated shared decisions with young people, it's kind of self-explanatory, I guess. Again, young people know that they're going to be involved, and here the adults open up the process to young people, so they're throughout, from the planning through the execution, the evaluation, young people would be involved in making that all happen. In all of these levels, adults and children may take different roles, but there would be agreement between the adults and the young people that their roles would be different. Doesn't mean that one is more important than the other. Okay, the next one, we go back down here, youth-initiated and shared decisions with adults. This would be a project where young people might have highlighted something that they feel that they need, but in order for them to achieve that change, they would enlist the help of adults. So together, they would make the decisions, they would plan the process. An example of this is a youth project in Everton. Young people realised that there was nowhere for them to go and meet their mates completely informally. So they decided that they thought making a youth shelter, a shelter which is just open to anybody but where young people are able to go, would be a good thing to do. They weren't sure how to go about that, so they enlisted the help of people in their estate, the Residents Association, to help them to do that, so they worked together. There had been a previous example a couple of years ago where young people had tried to do a shelter. The Residents Association thought that young people wanted a shelter. At that stage they didn't, so it fell apart. So working the other way around with the young people then enlisting the help of the adults, that became a successful project. And then the final one is youth-initiated and directed. So this is, again, young people initiating an idea and really leading on it, really driving it right from its outset all the way through and then to the evaluation as well. Again here, like I said before, it's not that there's no role for adults here at all, by no means. The young people can enlist the help and the support of adults in this sort of project as well. Is that clear? Yep. Everybody ready to go? So what we would like you to do now is to work in your groups. Probably you might need a couple of minutes, first of all, to think through work that you're doing or work that your organisation, your school is doing, and think about if you were to map it on this model, where it would be. We've got some handy post-it notes that you can scribble down and actually
from the outset, and and also if they see what they do can actually make a difference, then they're more likely to stand up. That incident when the gentleman was talking about taking youth delegates to Rio 20, and the fact that they just gave them their badges and walked out, I guess it's something that I feel is not being addressed at all at the moment. Not here, but I mean at this moment in time, that there isn't any emphasis really on secondary.
Hadia, and we're just running a pilot, so it's not really schools based at all. A wacky idea from our bosses who said, yeah, okay, you can go for that with a pilot. So we've linked him with Andrew Sutter at Eco Schools, who probably many of you will know, and we've requested to him that we become a regional delivery partner as a face-to-face physical contact in with the schools. You step to one side, they explain, they get the committee together, very much a youth-initiated and directed from that point of view, although it's adult-initiated because adults got
but well, because of the lack of time, and particularly the lack of time I get to work with the school council, and you're fighting against sort of, you know, trying to get the children out of class, and people saying, oh no, we're having science that can't or the year 6 are doing this, but they chose the project.
So I use tutor time, and the head's actually very supportive. What that means is that
with the Equal National Award.
Always best to go to begin to focus on the small, like the easy wins, kind of like turn the lights off, do this, and kind of not. Is it best to explain why to do this?
Well, they need to understand it, don't they?
Yeah,
You either explain it or you let them find out for themselves with resources and maybe videos or.
I think it's also important essentially if you're going
Very fresh.
to make a case for reducing energy consumption in a school, that you don't just say you're going to save X amount of kilowatt hours. I can't relate to a kilowatt hour.
No, of course.